Oh my goodness. Hello, and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast here on PFP Media. I'm not sure if that came through, but I had a weird message in my ear. It's season 3. All sorts of new things are happening here. We do, however, have the same cast as always. Still myself, Rafe Garland, hosting the show. Still joined by my best mate, Joe Doherty. Joe, how excited for this are you?
For the Premier League.
Well, for the podcast, man, for the show. You're
I'm
an Arsenal
excited.
fan. You're not excited for the football.
No, never excited for the football. Am I excited for this show? Yeah, of course. We just need to get through a whole season for the first time of asking, but third time lucky, Rafe, I think.
Well, look, to be fair, I don't think any of us anticipated the pandemic hitting. That wasn't really our fault. But man, I 100% back us to go right the way through the season. We're starting before the season. It's always a good start. This time last year, we were still doing Project Restart or whatever it was. Look, so much has happened since last year. So much has happened with us personally. I'm sure regular listeners will find out everything as the season goes on. But we've only got an hour to do this show and we've got so much football to get through. So, Joe, I want to start with probably the biggest story in world football in the last, I don't know how long, man, in living memory. Leo Messi, the greatest player of all time, has left Barcelona, the club he joined as a child. He's gone to PSG. You know, he's done the Robbie Keane move, the club he's always supported as a kid. Not quite.
This is it. Yeah, I heard PSG are really popular in Buenos Aires, aren't they? They're absolute number one European club. No, very, very sad. Neither of us are fans of Barcelona Football Club in any way, shape, or form. It's seeing them suffer the last couple of years has been great because they were so dominant for so long, and like I said, you and I have never been fans of them. But Messi, and we're not the biggest Messi fan either. Let's get that straight as well. We much prefer Cristiano Ronaldo, but only a fool would try to deny how good Messi is and the impact he's had on football, and he's a once in a generation player, if even more than that. So seeing him leave Barcelona and seeing him so upset at having to leave and in the manner that he had to leave, yeah, it wasn't the best. So feel for him, I suppose, but he signed an absolutely massive contract at Paris Saint-Germain, unsurprisingly, and pressure on Mauricio Pochettino now, Rafe, because if you add Lionel Messi, I mean, look at the transfers they brought in. It's not just him. Gianluigi Donnarumma on a free transfer, Sergio Ramos, they went and signed. Real Madrid and Barcelona's captains on free transfers. They brought in Gigi Wijnaldum on a free transfer. Ashraf Hakimi, who has now played for Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund, and Paris Saint-Germain, and he's just 22.
Never
One
mind
of
the
the best
goalkeeper, the
right
player of the
backs.
tournament at Euro 2022.
I did mention him, yeah, Gianluigi Donnarumma, yeah, he Italian goalkeeper, yeah, on a free transfer. Again, these are all key players they've got on free transfers. It's really, quite impressive. They've done a Juventus, Rave, signing players on free transfers.
I mean, but where is it going to take them next season? Do you see them winning the Champions League next year? Obviously, Champions League finalists. Can they take that step?
I'm not 100% sure that they can, Rafe, because there always seems to be something that stops them from winning the Champions League. I'm not 100% convinced by Pochettino. I think he's a very good manager. I don't think he's next level. I don't.
Is that just
I
the
mean,
Arsenal? Is that just the Arsenal you're talking?
Is that the Arsenal? Tell me what he's done to make me think that anyone think that he's next level.
Well, I suppose he came second in Ligue 1 with that Paris team last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. They lost to Lille in the French Super Cup.
And I suppose the thing about the Champions League is that it's a knockout competition. Like it's not always the best team on paper that wins it. It's not like the league where you see in recent memory in the Premier League, Man City run away with it, or you see Paris run away with it, or Bayern Munich. Like you've always got to come up and beat the best of the best. And it's knockout football as well. Teams are going to play for a draw. They don't need to beat you. You can get through a Champions League tie without winning a game, you know?
Well, I think, yeah, I completely agree with you. One of the things Messi said was he thought that PSG represented the best chance of winning the Champions League. I mean, they really have been knocking on the door the last few years. It has to be said. They've been getting closer and closer. But at the end of the day, they don't have that history.
And the same can be said for Man City.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, look at the Real Madrids and the Liverpools and the Bayern Munichs. Those are the teams who, they've got the most Champions Leagues along with AC Milan. Barcelona obviously would have over 5 as well, but it's just a handful of clubs who do have that 5 Champions Leagues, or more, and it tends to be the more historic clubs. I mean, Jesus, Chelsea won it last year, but it tends to be the more historic clubs that do better in it. Obviously, last year was a surprise. No one would have bet on Chelsea winning the Champions League, not even the most ardent Chelsea fan. But that's the beauty of, I mean, do I want to call it beauty when Chelsea win? But it is. That's the beauty of cup football, is that you can have a surprise. And once you have a really organized team, uh, they can, look at Villarreal in the Europa League as well.
I suppose it's a well
Pure
organized team.
organization.
It's a well gelled squad. You need a lot of team morale to go deep in cup competitions. I think you really got to have a lot of belief in the players around you, a lot of trust, and you've got to have a manager that will do it as well. So look, I think obviously on paper the PSG squad now looks absolutely unbelievable for next season, but we'll
It's
see.
phenomenal. It's one of the most insane squads ever assembled. I mean, a front three of Neymar, Mbappe, and Lionel Messi. It's outrageous.
But
Uh,
that's not even the second. That's not even the best front three that Messi and Neymar have played in together, in my opinion. Luis Suarez is the
with
best striker of his generation.
Suarez, Mbappe is a better player than Suarez at his peak.
He's a different player.
He's a different player. Suarez was phenomenal, but that's a better, in my opinion. I mean, agree to disagree. I think Suarez was a phenomenon. I think he was one of the best strikers of his generation. Absolutely.
The
He
best.
was never,
The best number 9 of his
well,
generation.
you're entitled to think that.
Who do you
I need
think?
to have a bigger.
Lewandowski?
From that generation, Suarez is in the conversation, man. He's definitely top 3 in terms of that generation. I need to have a real big think, and go back a few years, because although he's still playing, he hasn't really been at his peak for like
He's just won La
3-4
Liga
years.
2 years in a row. He was top scorer in La Liga last year with Atletico Madrid. Oh, I've lost my camera. Can you still hear me, Joe?
I can hear you, Rafe. Yeah, but I can just see your GoPro. It's Yeah, no, I'm not 100% sure convinced Suarez is the best striker of the last 10, 15 years, but he's certainly in the conversation.
Okay, look, enough about PSG, enough about Europe. What we're here to talk about is, I'm back again.
Lovely. There you are, yeah.
What we're here to talk about is the Premier League, Joe, and I want to get some nailed down, terrible predictions for this season that everybody we know can turn around and point to us throughout the year and laugh at us and say, you said West Ham are going to get relegated. They ended up in European spots.
Like last season.
Season. I'll take the heat for that one, what else do we call last season? I called City dropping out of the top 4. I think I called Manchester United finishing second, though, so I'll take that. That came out of nowhere for a lot of people. Right, look, Joe, we're going to start at the top of the table from last season. Manchester City. Do you see them winning the league again this year?
I think they'll be in the top 2. I actually fancy Chelsea to win the league, man. I think they've done some great business, and I mean, they won the Champions League. They've looked very. They've looked almost. I've stacked my fantasy football team with Chelsea players because they're just so tough to score against. He's really got them, Tuchel, nailed on defensively, and I think adding Lukaku. I know you asked me about City, but this kind of feeds into.
Well, we'll do Chelsea first then, because Chelsea.
Yeah, no, it's fine, man. It's fine. No, you asked me about City. I said they'll finish second, and why they'll finish second is because I think Chelsea will finish first. I think Lukaku is a fantastic striker, and you'd pay that money for him.
Does he suit what Chelsea want, though? Does he fit that Tuchel mold?
Yes, of course he does. He's rapid. He's really strong. He's a complete striker. He can do absolutely everything. He's fast. He's big. He's strong. He's got great technique. I think he's a little bit slow on the turn, which is something that United fans, and his first touch isn't the best, but I think he more than makes. You have to play to his strength as well. If you're signing Romelu Lukaku at 28 for £100 million or 95, whatever it is, you can't be expecting him to come in and be, try to make him into something he's not. So Chelsea are going to have to adapt a little bit. I think he'll be but they were playing Giroud up front a lot last year, who's a B-Tech Lukaku. The greatest respect to Lukaku there.
I mean, they do have the creativity around to create chances for him, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They have the likes of Pulisic and Ziyech and Mason Mount. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of people
Kai
as well.
Havertz, and I suppose they have attacking
Havertz,
wing
yeah.
backs as well. Marcus Alonso in that regenerated left wing back role as well will put a lot of balls into the box. No, look, I definitely agree with you that Chelsea really, really do look like the real deal this year. I know last year they were defensively strong, but if you're looking at the personnel in the Chelsea team, if you're going to try pick a weak spot, maybe I don't know, you might think Thiago Silva is another year older. Can he do it in the league again? He'll have to answer those questions. Obviously, he had an injury at the back end of last year. Can he come back strong? Rudiger looks good, though. Christensen looks good. They've got a lot of depth. So, yeah, look, I can definitely see Chelsea being up and around there. Talk to me about City for a minute, because they've gone out, they've splashed £100 million on Jack Grealish, shattered the British transfer record fee. They're still rumoured to be in for Harry Kane for circa £150 million. I mean, what else could they do? Can they do to guarantee that they win that league next year?
I think getting Kane is the main thing, man. They're in dire need of a striker. They don't have a striker. They have Gabriel Jesus, who is aside from his first 6 months for City, when he signed in January of whatever it was, 2017-18, I can't remember, a few years back, where he did score a good few goals. It's been very clear that he's not a first choice Premier League striker for a serious team. He's all right, but he's nothing special. Signing Harry Kane would be probably the biggest transfer in Premier League history, I think you'd have to say. Certainly from one Premier League club to another, they'd have to spend 120, 130 million pounds minimum. I think Spurs would find it, just to bring them into the conversation, obviously related to Kane, I think they'll really struggle to replace him. I think he's irreplaceable. I know they've been linked with Lautaro Martinez. I think Martinez would be much better for Arsenal, because I think Arsenal have much better players in those wide attacking positions, although Son Heung-min is great. I just don't think that I'm talking about Saka and Smith Rowe, etc., who are great at creating chances. I think Spurs losing Kane is their everything, and he has been for quite some time. And I think they really, really, really struggle if they lose him. I get you. Going back to City, then it's all on them getting that striker right. If they somehow end up not signing Kane, I think that'd be really worrying for them. I don't. Okay. I mean, who else fits that?
I don't necessarily know that City had an issue scoring goals last year, though.
They didn't. They were shared around, man. It was, I think Gundogan was top scorer in the league with 11.
About this City team,
they're all getting 8, 9, 10, 11.
They'll always score goals. And at the start of last year, I actually predicted them to drop out of the top four. And they really did struggle. You might remember for the first few months last season, until they say Ruben Diaz made the impact, but I don't necessarily know that it was the Diaz impact. We saw Diaz in the Euros over the summer exposed an incredible number of times for Portugal. I think he had one of the lowest rating players of players that had played 3 or more games in the Euros. He was in the bottom 3 or 5 players or something. He had an absolute stinker of a tournament. And look, obviously one tournament doesn't define a player, but throughout last season's show, I was adamant that he was being overhyped because City's, I don't know, turn in form coincided with him coming into the team. I think City last year really, really benefited from having such a deep squad, with so many games coming in together, with the lack of a proper preseason. As teams started to tire as the year went on, City just looked to keep the ball, move it around, tire teams out, and score late on. So if anything, I think that City are probably weak, similar to Chelsea in a way, weak at the back, especially if they pick up an injury somewhere. Like we saw Liverpool fall apart last year on the back of a string of injuries, but I don't think it would take 6 injuries to destroy Man City's title chance. I think it would only take 1 or 2.
I definitely disagree. I think John Stones has proven to be an extremely good Premier League centre half. They have Diaz, who's good, but I agree he's overhyped and he didn't deserve that award last year. They have Aymeric Laporte, who's a very, very good centre half, and then I believe the next in line would be Nathan Ake, who's decent enough. So I think it's pretty. I mean, you'd have to be getting down to Ake and then like a reserve kind of like under 21 player to be worried as a City fan in terms of defense. I agree more with the fullbacks, especially left back. Obviously Zinchenko had been playing most of the time. We'd both be very unconvinced by Benjamin Mendy, right? Like, I think Pep Guardiola is probably unconvinced by him as well. He hasn't set the world alight at all. He's not been the left back that they hoped. And Zinchenko's not really a left back, but he's done pretty well there for the last couple of seasons when he's been asked to play. I'm surprised that I haven't. I suppose because they're spending so much money on Grealish and Kane this summer, if they can get Kane over the line. But I'm surprised they haven't moved for a left back. Right back, they're all
I
set. Obviously,
suppose Cancelo can play on both sides, and that is the one thing that maybe goes in favor for them.
He can, but I think the way Pep wants to play, it's really essential to have a left footer at left back and a right footer at right back. I mean, obviously, you have to play right footer at the right back. You could
Nathan Ake shift out there. We've seen Laporte go move out there before.
Yeah, you could. And Ake would be a much more natural fit. He's pretty quick as well, to be fair to him. So he could get up and down the touchline.
Okay, let's pretend City sign Harry Kane here. Are you saying Chelsea, City 1 and 2?
I'm saying without Harry Kane, Chelsea, City 1 and 2, but I might put City first if they get Kane over the line. But obviously that transfer hasn't happened yet. And that's a really difficult transfer to make happen as well. I think, that could go on to January, man.
Yeah, it could, but I suppose Spurs don't also want him sitting around collecting a wage if he's not interested in playing there.
Of course.
We have seen them drag out the Gareth Bale saga, but as you mentioned, whether Spurs invest this money properly is another thing. Like 150 million is an incredible amount of money, but should they take that in, they spend whatever 50 million on Martinez or whatever it is. Where does the other 100 million go? Would you trust Spurs? And who's in charge at Spurs at the moment?
Yeah, they've got a new guy. It's Italian. I can't remember his name, man. You'll have
is he the former Lazio boss? Is he or Roma?
I honestly can't remember. I'd hate to guess, because I know I get it wrong.
This is what we're talking.
But I need to talk about Kane just again for a second. He's just so much more than a guy who scores goals. Like Martinez is a good goal scorer and he can do link up play. Kane's passing and the way he drops deep and how he provides assists and how he dictates play from a centre forward position is completely unique. In regards to modern strikers. The last I can remember who played like that, and he did not play it nearly as well, although he was good, was Teddy Sheringham. But he was much more of a number 10, but he was a big number 10.
I compare him to Firmino, except his finishing is obviously considerably better. His goal scoring is miles ahead of Firmino, but the way he drops and does look to link. I suppose maybe he plays a lot more long passes.
I see he does it in a different way. Firmino links in a more, exactly. Kane is more direct. Whereas Firmino kind of just links to plays a few 1-2s. He's much more of a futsal style player. Kane is completely irreplaceable for Spurs. Losing him would be catastrophic. I'm absolutely going to say that.
We will get to Spurs and we'll talk about how low they're going to finish, Joe. And I know you're going to love that.
No. And I'm not getting excited about this because I'm really concerned about my own club. But although I think we've made good transfers, but obviously we'll get there.
Joe, we're under pressure here for clubs. I'm going to keep flying through it.
Losing Kane would be catastrophic for Spurs.
Manchester United, they've gone out, they've got their man, the man they wanted for the last 3 years. The fans have been going crazy for Jadon Sancho. He's come in. They've out of nowhere, they've gone for Rafa Varane as well. Real Madrid, France World Cup winner. Are these the answers to their problems, Joe?
No, they're not. They haven't signed a good central midfielder. They've signed a winger who could barely get a game for England in the Euros. I think he did he start the last group game where it was already kind of England were already through? He might have played a couple of minutes here and there. I mean, Bukayo Saka was preferred to him, and a lot of people were laughing at his inclusion in the team, and I think he went on and proved to a lot of people wrong. I'm not 100% convinced by Sancho because I haven't seen enough of him, and I was hoping to see him in the Euros. So Bundesliga fans rate him very highly. I know that for sure. United fans are very excited. I'm not convinced that he's like the Messiah to bring them the Premier League title. And I'm not convinced that Raphael Varane is either, although he's a good centre-back. I'm pretty sure United needed to strengthen in the central midfield the most, and they haven't gone and done that.
I would agree almost entirely, word for word, with what you've said there. You've said Rafa Varane is a good defender. I'm not massively convinced. I think especially over the last couple of years, maybe if we're talking 2017, 18, when Real Madrid were winning Champions League.
Man, but he's not like.
I think he's been made to look. He's been playing beside Sergio Ramos and in behind Casemiro at Real Madrid, and he's still been exposed several times. He had an absolute stinker at Man City in the Champions League last year, gifted them 2
Yeah,
goals. He was responsible for Madrid going out. Look, Jadon Sancho, it's all English tax, man. What's he done, really? He scored a few goals in the Bundesliga, but his output last year was awful. Awful.
Reece Nelson scored a few goals in the Bundesliga when he went there on loan. Ademola Lookman scored a few goals in the Bundesliga
Leon
when he
Bailey,
went there on
who's
loan.
just signed for Aston Villa, scored a few goals. Like,
yeah.
if that might be the level. Look, if he proves me wrong, I'll turn around and I'll hold my hands up. I agree 100%. A central midfielder was what was needed, especially with Paul Pogba's contract still up in the air at this stage. If they don't get somebody in, look, it's so competitive this year, and that could be the difference between them finishing first or second or fifth and sixth. I genuinely believe that central midfield is that important for them.
I agree, man. And they've backed the manager, and I think that was a mistake as well. Not entirely convinced by him.
I couldn't be happier as a Liverpool fan to see him get a new contract.
Me too. I know Arsenal aren't in the conversation for the same conversation as Manchester United, but I don't believe that Solskjaer is the answer at all. And the longer that he's in charge, the less likely United are to win trophies.
Okay, we'll keep talking about the teams that finished at the top of the table last season. Joe, we're on to Liverpool. Okay, they've got their defenders fit, fit and firing. They've strengthened. They've brought in Kanate. Thiago's had a preseason. Jota's had a preseason.
I'm not convinced, man.
I'm
not convinced. That front three was tired last season, and it's going to be tired again with or without Jota. I don't think he's going to be wanting to start Jota. I think he's going to be wanting to start his favorite front three, and Jota will be the man to come in after 60 minutes. And when one of them needs a rest, he'll rotate. The centre-back situation will be much improved, obviously having Van Dijk back, but Van Dijk might not be the same Van Dijk. He's done his ACL. That's a really complicated injury to come back from. It's not set in stone that he's going to have the same turn of pace that he used to have, and that's what really made him stand out, as well as how he reads the game and his distribution. So I think that if I was a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't be overly confident going into this. I wouldn't be thinking, this is Liverpool of 2019-20. I'd be thinking this is Liverpool of last season, and I think Liverpool will do well to finish third. I think they'll probably finish fourth.
You can take what I'm about to say with a pinch of Liverpool bias salt.
I take everything you say about Liverpool with much more than a pinch of Liverpool bias.
Look, I've watched all of the preseason, and I'm incredibly excited coming into the new season, especially about the top end of the pitch. I suppose that the best news from the preseason is that Sadio Mane looks like he's back to his old self. He was off form last season massively. He underfired. Himself and Firmino missed an absolute rake of chances, which cost Liverpool considerably more than any sort of defensive issues that they had. So Mane has been backfiring. Jota has started a lot of the preseason games because Firmino obviously was coming late back from Brazil duty, been involved in the Copa America, and he's done really, really well centrally as well. And he's given Klopp a real selection headache there. Firmino finally came back and started the game, scored 2 goals. I know it was against Osasuna. We're not thinking too much about it. But surprisingly enough, Minamino has actually been incredible. 4 goals in his 4 preseason games. Now, look, preseason means absolutely nothing. I can remember Andre Varnon scoring something like 4 goals preseason in that season before he went on to score 1 or 2 goals for Liverpool. But he's looked like he's really benefited from having a full preseason as well. There is talks that maybe they'll get one more attacker in. They're looking at Jeremy Doku, exciting young Belgian player. He definitely wouldn't be a starting player, but definitely that bit of pace off the bench, somebody to replace Shaqiri. He looks like he's going to Lyon. In midfield, Naby Keita has been unbelievable. And I know I say this every year, Joe. I know I'm banging this Naby Keita drum. If he can stay fit, which is a big if, he could be the difference maker for them in midfield this season.
I fundamentally disagree. I disagree with Naby Keita making the difference in midfield. I don't see it. I've watched plenty of him. He's had enough chances, and I think you'd be doing well to prove me wrong on that. I think he'd be pulling up trees. If Naby Keita is the difference maker in Liverpool's midfield, if we're talking about having a season where he really sets the league alight, he his performances are so good that he gets the front three on song
Yeah.
again. He reads the game perfectly. His passing is great. I don't see it.
He is going to have an uphill battle getting into the team with obviously Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago ahead of him. He's going to be dependent on an injury somewhere to get a long spell into the team. So it just means that the cover is there. You know, a lot of Liverpool fans were concerned with Wijnaldum leaving. Obviously, he's played 50 games every season since he's been there. Was he going to be replaced? Obviously, look, you're banking on Keita to stay fit. You're banking on Ox to stay fit, but Harvey Elliott in pre-season, man, has been incredible. He's only 18 years old. He's young. No one's expecting him to start every game, but he's a real talent going forwards. He reminds me of Coutinho, the way he can play wide, come in, carry the ball forward, dribbling. Obviously, look, that's a big comparison to make. Really excited about him. Konate's looked good in pre-season. And the other one, Tsimikas, the left-back reserve. We're going to see a bit of him at the start of the season with Robertson out. And he looks really good as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with Harvey Elliott. I haven't watched enough of him, but everything that you hear about him is very positive. And there's just such a depth of good English talent in midfield positions at the moment that I'm inclined to believe the hype in his case. So I'm very excited to see more of him, and I hope to see him. He'd be used in a left central attacking role, right, on the left of a midfield three, or would he be part of the front three?
He'd be on the right side of midfield, coming in on that left foot. Himself and Salah have linked up well. Himself and Trent Alexander-Arnold have linked up well. There, and then shifting to the left winger role, you might see Salah come into the number 9. You might see him play 4. He's an option anyway on the right wing or on the right side of midfield. Anyway, look, man, I'm excited about them. And the more people writing Liverpool off, the happier I feel. You know, fans back in stadiums is going to be absolutely huge for them.
I mean, do you expect a league title? I mean, for me, Liverpool will be doing well to finish to finish third. I honestly think that.
I think Chelsea have come on a lot. I'm worried about Chelsea. I can really see Liverpool getting edge up on City this year, especially if they can rediscover their home form. I mean, they were top of the league after 14 games last season, and before the injuries hit, they lost 6 home games on the bounce at the start of the season, and they still somehow managed to come third last year. There's something so resilient about that team.
It was the race to not finish.
Man, there's resilience. They were only 2 points off United, though. Man, there's such a resilience about that team, especially with the leaders coming back, Henderson coming back in, Van Dijk coming back in, like the fans back in the stadium. I can only see them being considerably better than last season, especially with the players that never had a preseason under Klopp now having a preseason. Look, we're short on time. We're going to keep rolling through it. And Leicester City is one I want to talk to you about, Joe. The team that have been banging on the door of the top 4 for the last few years. They've taken a huge blow in preseason. They've lost Wesley Fofana. It looks like a really serious injury, a leg break. They've got Yannick Vestergaard in to replace him. How do you see it going for Leicester this season?
Well, Vestergaard is in no way a like-for-like replacement for Fofana. Fofana is quick and he's good on the ball, and Vestergaard is very big and very slow, and he's not, comparable on the ball. So I don't see it. They've gone for a proven decent Premier League centre back who doesn't cost very much. He just had a year left.
Scores goals as well.
29. He's I mean, of course he does. Have you seen him? He's like 6'8".
Would you like to mark him, man? Would you?
Would I like to mark him? We're big enough lads, but we don't come close to him. He's massive. I mean, for me, if you want to, I'm all for, and I think Brendan Rodgers, which is why this transfer surprises me, is that he's a philosophy manager. He has his way of playing it. I'm not at all convinced that Vestergaard is cut from the same cloth as Wesley Fofana, and he'd be doing well to prove me wrong on that. I think Leicester, they've got themselves to blame for not making the Champions League 2 years in a row. It's obviously great they won the FA Cup and the Charity Shield. Those are 2 great performances and achievements. And, just getting in the Europa League for a club like Leicester City is very good. But when you look at how their league, where they were in the league both seasons in February, and then look where they finished at the end of the season, that's all on Rodgers and the squad and not being able to see the season out. I'd be interested to see what happens with Maddison, because he's obviously been linked with Arsenal, and from everything that I've read about it, he would like that move, and Leicester would sell if the money was right. Losing him would be a big blow. I think he's a very good player, and he's very important to how they play. He gets goals and assists. Like, I think about 8 goals and 7 assists last season, so it's good numbers.
They
Um,
do have Harvey Barnes obviously coming back from that injury. He's missed a lot of the last couple of seasons through
he's a good
injury.
man. They have good players. They're a
They've
really
gone
good
out and
team.
signed
I
what's his name, Patson Daka from Salzburg. He was highly rated. I think
mm,
he scored an insane number of goals last year. I know it was the Austrian league, but he put up incredible numbers. They've strengthened in midfield. They've gone and bought some guy I've not heard of, to be honest, from Lille. Samare, obviously he was league winner there last year, 18 million for him. They've got Bertrand in on a free transfer. They're obviously securing that Vestergaard deal. I mean, they've lost somebody in the attacking positions as well. Sendik Under, who was quite good filling in for Harvey Barnes towards the end of last year. We had spoken about Jamie Vardy. Obviously, when you talk about Leicester, you talk about Jamie Vardy. Could somebody step up and fill that role? That Vardy role. We always said they're one Vardy injury away from, mid-table or whatever. Could this be in Iheanacho's role? Patson Daka, maybe, are they taking steps in the right direction? Like Iheanacho was on fire at the end of last season. He's scored the penalty in the Community Shield this year. Could he be the main man at Leicester this year?
yeah, maybe. I mean, I always rated him at City. I was surprised when it didn't go right for him at the start for Leicester. So it was nice to see him score last season. I always liked him as a player. I think he's a decent striker. Jamie Vardy is one of the best Premier League strikers ever. So filling his shoes is going to be very tough. But Iheanacho did all the right things when called upon at the back end of last season. And scoring that penalty in the Community Shield is a good way to start this season. So I've put him in my fantasy team, man. I'm backing Iheanacho to do the business this season. I think Leicester might stumble a little bit. I think they might fall off a little bit this season.
Why
I don't
is
think
that?
they'll
Do you
be
think
as
that's just
good.
because the competition will be stronger around them?
What the teams around them have done is much more impressive than what they've done in the transfer market. But I'd expect them to. I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but they might finish kind of like. I'm not expecting them to challenge for the title, which they have been. They've been in the title race at Christmas kind of 2 years in a row. I don't think that'll happen this time. They're looking at a Europa League finish again, I'd say.
We've spoken a little bit about Spurs already. They've not got an experienced manager in there. They're potentially losing their star man. They've gone out. They have strengthened. They brought in a new centre half, haven't they?
Christian Romero, yeah, very highly rated from Atalanta. They spent £50 million, the best part of £50 million on him.
That was a
won the
position
Copa
they really
America.
did need to strengthen. That was somewhere they really did need to look at to change. Toby Alderweireld, obviously, how old is he now? 35, 36 or something crazy like that.
He's in his early.
No,
yeah, he's in his early 30s.
thirties.
What you call him? Vertonghen would be that age, but obviously he's moved on to
Gone on
Benfica
now,
now. No, they did need a centre back. So, as always, we'll see how he adapts. But the feedback that I've been hearing on football Twitter is that he's pretty good and that he's going to be worth the money for them.
Okay,
So
hypothetically,
they
Joe,
about him.
they keep Kane. He's happy to keep playing. The fans get back on board. It's like last season for Harry Kane. Okay, Man City's never happened. Do Spurs have a chance of even making the top four? Never mind winning the league, even with Kane.
Even with Kane, I'd say at best sixth. I don't think Nuno is great. I don't think that Spurs squad is amazing, and I think they'd be doing well to finish in the top six. I think seventh or eighth will be much more likely for them. If they lose Kane, I think they'll definitely come seventh, eighth, ninth.
Seventh, eighth, ninth.
If they keep him, I'd say sixth at best.
Okay. Before we move on to some of the other teams that maybe surprised us a little bit last season, talk to me about Arsenal, because Joe, I want to keep them involved in the big clubs. I want to keep them to the top of the table. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that's not me being, patronizing. If you look at the calendar year tables, Arsenal are right up there for the 2021 table. They finished last season incredibly strongly. Can they build on that? Can they move forwards? Can they get back into a position where they are challenging at the top? What is it that they need to do? Have they done enough in the window?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, I'm worried because Arsenal play tomorrow, and I believe that we're 3 players short, and we need to get rid of a lot of players at the same time. So I'm actually very happy with the 3 transfers we've made. I think Nuno Tavares is a good backup left back. He gets up and down. He can play left wing if needed, or be a defensive winger. For 7-8 million pounds to get a young left back in who fits the bill is a no-brainer. Albert Sambi Lokonga, who was captain of Anderlecht at just the age of 21, he's a really good midfielder, and how he distributes, how he reads the game. He's got good athletic attributes as well. And he's probably going to start tomorrow because Partey is injured, so he'll play beside Xhaka. That being said, I would really, really, really like a couple of other additions in midfield. I don't want to see Mohamed El Neni playing games for Arsenal Football Club unless it's absolutely necessary.
Has Lucas Torreira come back?
Yes, but he's not involved. He's going to be on the move. He's going to be
Guendouzi?
He's been loaned out with an obligation to buy to Marseille.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gone. Both of them are gone.
Emil Smith-Rowe looked really promising in the attacking positions last season.
Absolutely.
Where do you reckon we'll see Partey play this year? Will he be playing as a 6? Will he be playing as an 8?
I think he'll be playing as an 8 beside Xhaka. Him and Xhaka will be playing together most of the time, and Lokonga will be the third choice. I really think it's necessary for Arsenal to sign a number 10. I thought Odegaard was really good last season. He just links the play in the way that Arteta, the way he wants to play in terms of a 4-2-3-1. You need to have that sort of number 10, or else a goal scoring 10
Could you look
like
to
Maddison.
Smith-Rowe to do that though?
You could, but Smith-Rowe is really effective off the left, man. So I'd be inclined to. Smith-Rowe is a give and go player. He doesn't play defense splitting passes.
Okay, one that wrecks my brain. Joe Willock. I know you said that it's good money, 25 million, but if you're talking about Arsenal being short in midfield, at the moment, he looks like a good player. He's come up through Arsenal's academy. He's Arsenal through and through. He had a really, really successful loan spell at Newcastle last season. He scored in 6 games in a row or something, didn't he?
7. Yeah, 7. He couldn't have done any more. I really would have liked to see him given a chance. I thought a couple of years ago he could, kind of fill Aaron Ramsey's shoes. I think he proved he could on loan at Newcastle.
Like you said, I don't know what else he could have done. And it's a baffling one. Arteta seems to have things with a couple of players. You look at William Saliba, the centre half as well. He's meant to be really, really good. And he just doesn't seem to be able to get a chance at Arsenal. You look at Torreira,
there's another thing about Saliba. Saliba was told, we want you to go out on loan in the Premier League. And he said, no, if I'm going out on loan, I'm going to go to France. So for me, that says that Saliba's not, I have doubts about him, if I'm honest. I know he's highly rated, but I have doubts about if he's going to play for Arsenal Football Club, he should get a taste of the Premier League. And your reaction to being told we want you to go to a Premier League club shouldn't be, no, I prefer to go to Liga. I mean, if I'm told in work that work want me to do something to take my career to the next level, I'm not going to be like, nah, actually, I'll go and do this easier thing that's more comfortable for me. I mean, what does that say about him?
Yeah,
it
fair
says
enough.
He wants to be in an environment that he's comfortable in. I'm sorry, but that's not what the Premier League is like.
Fair enough.
So fucking hell, go on and get used to playing. Go and play for Newcastle. Like, I think go and test yourself in the Premier League. Absolutely. On Willock, I think he was sent out on loan to be sold.
Yeah, he was there. He was put in the shop window essentially.
Yeah, he probably had a £10 million price tag going into that loan, and he has a £25 million price tag now. So I think that was the purpose of the loan. You know yourself, Rafe. Not every loan is to come back into the first team.
Yeah, I know, but if they're targeting players like Buendia and Maddison, I mean, creative midfield players are. How much did Buendia go for? Well, he was about 25 million.
35 million pounds. Yeah, I'm not convinced about him, to be honest.
No, I'm not either. But if that's the type of player Arsenal are looking at, they also had someone very close to home, maybe that knew the club quite well. It just seems like a strange one. Seems like a strange one for me. Anyway, look. I'm tempted to throw Everton in as a big club. but while we're talking about Buendia, let's talk about Aston Villa, because I mean they were ones that really, really excited me last season. You know, I gave Dean Smith an incredible amount of praise. I backed them to go down at the start of the season again, like West Ham. They showed me up. They've gone out, they've signed Buendia, they've signed Ings, they've signed Bailey, they've got Ashley Young back in. I know he's 35 now, but he's got that experience. They brought Axel Tuanzebe in from Manchester United on loan.
Can I say something, man?
Yes.
I mean, Villa are getting all this praise. Do you know where they finished last season? They finished bottom half. They finished 11th.
But Joe, it was their first season back in the league. And they played good football.
It was their second season back in the league, wasn't it? Was it their first season back in the league?
I'm fairly certain it was. Yeah, they came up last year. Grealish got them up and then kept them up. That was the whole thing, wasn't it?
Okay, Grealish got them up and then kept them up. I stand to be corrected. I mean they.
And I mean that they had a string of injuries. I know that their form dipped in and around Christmas, but I mean this is what I was talking about. Man City, the size of their squad, man. Villa had a tiny squad last season. A really, really small squad.
No, when they came up, they came up in they were in the league in 1920 and they came 17th and they survived on the last.
Man, they did because the VAR incident where the ball had crossed the line. They should have been relegated, shouldn't they?
Yes, I knew it. I knew I was right.
Sorry. Yeah, no, they should have been relegated. So I think who went down, and was it Norwich went down at their expense?
Norwich went down bottom that season. Bournemouth and Watford both went down at their expense, a point below them. It would have been Bournemouth actually. Yeah, and Bournemouth had a better goal difference as well.
Yeah. So sorry, yeah, no, you're right. It was their second season, but I think that their squad was too small last season. They played good football when they had a couple of injuries, especially to Grealish. They really just lacked that final punch. They had some issues at centre half. Konsa looks like a good player. Mings looks like a good player. A little bit maybe. I don't know, incident prone. Tuanzebe looks quite good at United as well, so maybe he'll be interesting.
Do you know what I will say about Villa is that I think they're very well run, and I think that when you have a very well run club, that filters down to everyone else, and the work ethic is on point. And I think that the business they've done is probably good. Bailey will have a lot to prove. He comes with a big reputation. And a reasonable price tag for a Bundesliga player, so I think he has a lot to prove.
But I mean, Joe,
I'm very excited to see him. I think he's very good.
A front four of Buendia, Bailey on either side with Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins through the middle is pretty exciting, is it not?
Is it? I mean, it's all right. It's Villa fans, if there are any listening, will probably be. I think it could go either way for them. I think Danny Ings is a really good striker. Again, I have him in my fantasy Premier League team, but he's also injury prone. I think Watkins had a good season last year, but it could have been better. He started very well.
You were critical of Watkins at times.
He had long periods without scoring goals. There are a couple of games where he scored a hat-trick against Liverpool, obviously. I think he might have got 2 in another game at the start of the season, and that kind of distorted his figures. And then he had like an 11-game, 12-game drought at one stage, which is unacceptable as a striker in the Premier League, as far as I'm concerned. I let him off because it was his first season in the league. Buendia is unproven in the Premier League. I know that he had a season with Norwich where he created a lot of chances. He also scored just 1 goal. So clearly goal scoring is not his game. And he's just had 1 season in the Premier League where Norwich got relegated and he just scored once. Bailey comes highly rated from Leverkusen, where he's always been a threat and has good stats, and he is bags of pace and bags of ability. But the Premier League is a completely different kettle of fish, and Nicola Pepe came with a huge price tag. So did Hakim Ziyech, less so price tag, more so reputation, and neither convinced in their first season. So as a left-footed right winger, so I stand to be. I think it could be exciting for them. I also think that it could be average enough.
Right. Well, we'll nail down some predictions anyway for how the table will look in a couple of minutes. The only 2 teams, I suppose, top half teams that I want to talk about are Everton and West
Villa
Ham.
A top half team?
Well, I think they might be, Joe. I think they might be.
I think they might come in the top half as well, right? Yeah.
So, potential top half teams, shall we say? Everton under Rafa Benitez.
I think they'll struggle on.
So do I.
They've had the issue. There's an issue ongoing with one of their players, which we don't want to get into because we don't know enough about it. I mean, a lot of it is rumors. There's some allegation. Nothing's been proven yet. Should we say that? So we don't need to get
Nothing's
into it.
been
But
proven yet. No.
everyone will know what we're talking about. But I don't really want to talk about it.
I can't see him being involved this season in the Premier League.
Neither can I, but I can only see that having a negative effect on the dressing room. I'm pretty sure he would be a popular member of the squad. He just comes across as that sort of way, in that sort of way. I'm not. I worry for Everton, even though I really like Benitez.
Yeah, I mean, like they obviously Sigurdsson's not going to be around, so they've gone out, and the players that they've looked to bring in to replace him are Damari Gray, who's a championship level player, as far as I'm concerned. They bought him from Leverkusen for 1.8 million. I think that tells you all you need to know. A 30-year-old Andres Townsend on a free transfer from Crystal Palace. And they have Moise Keane coming back from loan, as well as St. Tosin coming back from loan.
I think they'll finish bottom half.
Yeah, I
mean, maybe 10th with Benitez as coach. I mean,
they had Carlo Ancelotti as coach last season and finished 10th, man.
This is it. I don't think James Rodriguez will be wanting to do it for Rafa Benitez in the way that he was only at the start of last season for Ancelotti. And I definitely said that he wouldn't have a great season, and I was definitely right. Do you remember when Everton won the league in November?
Yeah, I do. I'm regularly reminded of it on Liverpool Twitter. And Joe, not only have they not signed anybody, they've lost Sigurdsson for God knows how long, potentially a few years.
I think so.
Bernard
Johnson, isn't it?
Bernard has gone as well. Josh King has gone as well. Theo Walcott has gone as well. I mean, these guys.
Well, those three were fringe players, to be fair.
I mean, they all had. Well, I mean, Walcott anyway had a purple patch last season, and that he looked quite a decent player. But I mean, it's not anything impressive from them. And I know Benitez will put some shape on them, and they might become hard to beat, but that'll only get you 12th or 13th in the modern Premier League, Hard to beat only gets you so far.
That's what we found out with his Newcastle team, man.
Well, I mean, I think also the standard of the Premier League is rising and rising, and the points it takes to finish higher up the season are more and more. And, a point a game, it's bringing it closer and closer to the drop zone than it is to the top half. Like, Richarlison won't be around as well for the first bit of the season. As well, because of his involvement in the Olympics. He only was playing last weekend.
He's linked with Barcelona as well. What I will say about, just to go back to Villa, is that they're now signing players that you'd think top 6 clubs would usually have signed in Leon Bailey. Like I thought for years that he'd go to a top 6 club.
Yeah.
For the last 2 seasons, I was surprised that Arsenal or Spurs didn't make a move for him.
I thought you said top 6 clubs. Yeah, but anyway, look, Arsenal were from Buendia as well.
Slip of the tongue, sorry, man.
Danny Ings, was Liverpool's standard if he could keep himself fit, which was the only issue there. I mean, these guys are genuinely top half Premier League players at worst, Champions League players at best.
Like I said, Villa are well run. I don't know if you saw the message from their chief executive when Grealish left. Like, he literally spelled out exactly what happened in the most clear and concise way that you possibly could. There's no bullshit in that football club in the way that there is at, I'm going to mention Arsenal and Spurs again. You never get that from Dan Levy or from Josh Kroenke.
No.
Could you imagine that?
No.
One of them explain, like a guard, by the way, just collected loads of pizza. I have an Apache pizza. Sorry, I said that. Anyway, forget that nonsense. Apologies. No, I predict Villa to do well. Everton to struggle. Who did you want to talk about now?
West Ham was the last one, Joe. And I have absolutely no idea with this one.
Neither do I, man. I'm going to say I predict them to struggle because they did well last season, and their inconsistency is the hallmark of West Ham United. I can't remember the last time they put 2 good seasons together. So I'd expect them to finish mid-table, man. And if they do any better, that's great. And if they do any worse, I'm not surprised at all.
I said that Liverpool may have been hampered by the lack of fans in stadiums last season. Do you think West Ham would have benefited from having an empty Olympic Stadium at times?
Yeah, hugely. We definitely brought that up as well. No, the Olympic Stadium, when, a good portion of the fans in the London grounds, especially the bigger London grounds, less so Stamford Bridge and Craven Cottage, etc., are tourists. So that that doesn't, that doesn't add to the atmosphere. As well as that, obviously, it's got a running track around the outside, so the stands are really far away from the
was more
from the
suggesting
pitch.
that when things don't go well for West Ham, those fans tend to turn pretty quickly, and it can almost feel like an away game for a lot of the players.
Yeah, but at Upton Park, it was a cauldron. For me, the two facts I've mentioned are significant, and they're significant at Arsenal games as well and at Spurs games. Is that you have tourists going because they're 60,000, 65,000 stadiums in London, so you have tourists going to every game, and the less so with Spurs' stadium, but with the Emirates and the Olympic Stadium, the fans are really far away from the pitch, and that's not ideal. I really don't think it's ideal. It's not like that at Anfield, man. Look at the reaction you get. Look at
That's
that
it.
atmosphere.
That's
Yeah.
it. Look, I suppose with West Ham, obviously they will be competing in Europe this season, and
This is another thing.
is their squad going to be deep enough for that? And I think that's probably the biggest thing. We've seen different teams fall victim to the Thursday night trap over the years, and if they're playing Thursday night and then they're playing, Sunday evening, Monday night every week, we know that Monday night games tend to be lower scoring. We know that teams that participate in the Europa League, tend to finish off slightly worse than the season before where they qualified for it. Like, we know these things. And I don't know that West Ham have gone out and invested this summer to give themselves a deeper squad. I know that David Moyes doesn't necessarily play the most high intense football, but they've lost Jesse Lingard, who was massive for them last year.
He was their best player, yeah.
Go on.
No. Yeah, I don't think that Moyes likes a deep squad either. I think he likes to play the same 11 every week. But you can't do that if you're competing in Europe. You need to have a big squad. So yeah, I don't think they'll do nearly as well as they did last season, man. I think that was a bit of a one-off.
I'd agree. Okay, right. I'm not going to talk too much, and apologies to any mid-table fans listening here. We really are just running out of time. We have about 10 minutes left, and we want to try to roll through basically a mock-up Premier League table for how things are going to look. Do you want to start at the bottom, Joe, or start at the top?
Yeah, just interesting, I suppose. We brushed over Leeds and Wolves, and
I can't see Wolves.
Wolves are out of it. Yeah, for me as well. I completely
Especially
agree. It's
without
just
Nuno.
funny. Yeah, it's just funny because they came 7th 2 years in a row, maybe even 2 years in a row, and Leeds were so positive in so many ways last season, but we haven't brought them up at all. I always expect Norwich City to struggle. I'm not going to lie. I always expect Burnley to struggle, and they always surpass my expectations. I'm just having a look at the teams who are in the league. Watford, I always expect Watford to struggle whenever they're in the Premier League, even when they had those few years of being a reasonably consistent mid-table fixture. But those, and Brentford, because they're an unknown quantity, and although I think they are a good football team, and Ivan Toney is a very good striker, it's their first ever season in the Premier League, and it's not an easy step up.
Suppose Brighton are the other team to mention in that conversation down the bottom as well.
They're always down there, man. Yeah, they're always down there. I mean, the likes of Newcastle and Southampton, never say never, but they're kind of more lower mid-table. Crystal Palace could go either way. I'm not convinced by Patrick Vieira because I don't, just purely because I'm not 100% sure if his managerial experience leans him to being successful in that job, and they've had a lot of outgoings in terms of contracts ending. So I'd be, they wouldn't be my first choice to finish in the bottom 3, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had a very poor season.
That's actually not a terrible shout, and it's something that we haven't actually touched on. If you want to talk about the players that have left this season, obviously we spoke about Townsend going, Patrick Van Aanholt has moved on, Sacco has moved on, Wayne Hennessy has moved on, James McCarthy has moved on, Gary Cahill has moved on, Scott Dan has moved on, Connor Wickham.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys maybe wouldn't be first team players, but those are certainly a handful of key first team players and some squad players moving on as well. Oh, sorry, Conor Gallagher has stayed on loan. They brought in Mark Guehi from Chelsea. They brought in Joachim Andersen from Lyon, and they brought in.
He's a decent centre back. Joachim Andersen is a decent centre back.
He came in for a decent fee as well, and they brought in Michael Olsey from Reading as well.
Yeah, I really want Vieira to do well. Obviously, as an Arsenal fan, I want Patrick Vieira to do well. But that's a tough job. I think Hodgson did well there.
I think
Uh,
he consistently punched above where he should be at that team. I think they are definitely relegation candidates that he had been keeping
yeah,
mid-table. So I
yeah,
mean, Vieira
100%.
doesn't have the best track record in management so far either, as well. So he's definitely got his work cut out for him. Right, Joe, I'm
It was
putting
a,
you on the spot. 3 teams
yeah,
to go
yeah,
down.
yeah, man. I'm gonna go with Norwich City. This is tough because they were really good in the championship last season, but they
They've
were really
lost
good in the
Buendia.
championship. Yeah, they were really good in the championship 3 seasons ago, and they were shite in the Premier League. And I expect them to struggle again. So I'm going to go with Norwich City. I'm going to go with Brentford. It's their first ever season in the Premier League. And man, I'm going to be very brave, and I'm going to go with Crystal Palace.
That is. Look, I don't even know that it is brave, to be honest, Joe. I am thinking that Palace will definitely be in trouble this year. I really
Yeah,
do
so
think
do
they'll
I.
be in trouble.
I think that I mean Vieira is a bold choice, man. When you're losing that many players and Roy Hodgson, and I know Hodgson. I mean Hodgson was a guarantee of staying up.
Yeah, he was.
He
He
was.
really was.
Yeah, like that's a bold move.
I mean, I'm just having a quick look at Norwich. Norwich have brought in 8 players, all for under £10 million. I mean, they've strengthened their squad, but they've not really gone out and got any quality. The one player of quality they've brought in, I suppose, is Billy Gilmore, on loan from Chelsea, and he might be maybe not a like for like for Buendia, but he might add that little bit of creativity in midfield. Look, I think most of that Norwich team have been together for years now, and that will stand to them. I think the Brentford team have been together for years. That might stand to them as well. I'm going to put Crystal Palace down there, maybe not rock bottom. And I'm going to put Watford down there.
I think Watford will struggle as well. I just
I don't know
I don't
what
know
Watford
what
have
may,
about them.
but neither do I. The thing, and I know what Brentford have about them. I just know that I mean they're primed to come up, but they came up through the playoffs and they've been in the playoffs every season it seems, and it probably hasn't been every season. It was probably just twice or three times. But man, the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. It hits different to the Championship, as tough
I,
as the Championship
look,
is. So
like I
good
said,
luck to them. I want Brentford to do well.
I,
Absolutely. I just think they'll struggle.
I think they might have that resilience. I think that they will have played together. They'll know how they want to play. I'm going to trust them to see it out. Man, I worry for Southampton.
So do I. Man, there are some shite teams in
They're
there,
going to
and
be
I actually think
replacing.
I think Brentford are good. I just think that and Norwich. I just think that it's a tough step up. That's
Okay.
all. And Norwich saw that firsthand last time they were in the Premier League. Like they weren't terrible when they were in the Premier League. It was just a tough step up for them. Like Southampton and Newcastle and Crystal Palace are shit.
I think Newcastle will be
But
okay.
I think they will too, but they're shit. Do you know
They
what I
are
mean?
shit.
Like
Yeah, no, they are.
they're shit. Whereas the teams who we've mentioned, who I've certainly put in as maybe going down, I wouldn't say that they're shit. But
Okay.
sure, look, this is it.
Right. I need a third team to go down, Joe. I'm gonna say, I mean, it's between Norwich and Brentford, really. I don't know enough about either of them, Joe. I can't make a shout without knowing enough. But I'm gonna agree with you on Crystal Palace. Did you say that Watford would go?
No, I didn't. But man, if I'm picking four, Watford are absolutely in the four,
Yeah.
and I might change. I could, another day I could easily put Watford in there. I just
Okay.
put Brentford in there.
Right. Look, we'll set. Yeah. Okay. Look, I think that's enough of that conversation
Yeah.
because it's so impossible to predict.
It will be there forever, man. I got to bounce. This has been fantastic. I have
Can
to
you give me
collect my
can you give me a
son.
top six quickly?
Top six, yeah, of course I can, man. Chelsea, City. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say Liverpool, United. I'll give Arsenal the benefit of the doubt because they've no European football, and I do like the signings, and they finished last season well. I'll put Arsenal fifth, but Arsenal could finish 10th, and I wouldn't be surprised. I will put Leicester sixth, Spurs seventh, Villa eight. That's more than a top six.
That's more than a top six.
Yeah. So that's my top eight then, Rafe.
All right, mate. Sound very quickly rounded off. I'm going to go. Of course, I'm going to go Liverpool one because I have to go Liverpool one. I'm going to go Chelsea two, City three, Leicester four. I'm going to go. Who have I missed out? United five, and do you know what, Joe? I'm going to give it to Arsenal. I'm going to put them six. I'm going to get them up there.
Do you know something, Rafe? This is the first season I haven't predicted Arsenal to be in the top four.
Well, maybe it's a lucky omen for you.
I'd be really surprised.
Joe, it's
I'd
been
be
great to do
really
this again.
surprised.
I know you've
It's
got
been
to
great
go.
to do
Your
this again,
child is
Rafe.
waiting for you. He's desperate.
My child
Desperate to
is
see his
waiting
dad.
for me, but we'll do this next week. Where we'll have some reviews, man. We'll be reviewing. Yeah,
Absolutely. I can't wait
this
for
will
it.
be
I'm
great.
actually really looking forward to it, Joe. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on. Thanks to everybody that watched it. And absolutely, guys, we will see you next week.